Hi guys, and welcome to another colour along. Today we are colouring along from Asleep, the first of my sweet and simple colouring books. I'm going to colour this page called The Old Man and the Sea. If you don't have Asleep, you can grab the illos that I'll be colouring in June from rjhampson.com in the Colour Club pack, which is where I collect all of the illustrations that I shall be colouring in a month, and you can purchase them for a handful of dollars. Follow along without having to purchase all of the books. If you've got all the books, then you're ready to go. Before I start, I'm going to colour this in Ohuhu markers, alcohol markers, and I've got a sheet of acetate and a sheet of blank paper under my page. And here we have a whale with an old man on the sea. All of them seem to be asleep, which sort of follows the theme of the book. And of course this whale is a fantastic looking whale, and I think I'm going to paint him blue because let's say he's a blue whale. And I was going to sort of try and vignette. I've got three blues here. I've got a hydron blue, a sky blue, and a pale blue. And I was going to try and vignette through. I'm going to take advantage of the black lines here. I'm just being careful to leave those little dots uncoloured because I want to bring back in some colours. Now I'm thinking that I might just cut that off, and that would stop it here and then colour another colour directly, which means I could show that this part of our whale is underwater. Right, that was hydron blue. Now I'm going to bring in my sky blue. It's not a huge difference in colour, but hopefully it's enough to make it look like this whale's half underwater and with his nose in the air. I'm just going to leave under his eye uncoloured for now. Alright, I think now's the time for me to quickly swap and bring in my pale blue. And I'm going to try and just work a little bit harder on the edge there so that the pale blue sort of blends with our sky blue that we used there. Sky blue back because I want to blend it back up into the tail. And I think those fins should be the pale blue as well. I have this lovely colour called Pale Hibiscus. And I was thinking that maybe we could play with things like his eyebrow. Right, I'm just going to play again with my pale blue. I want to sort of bring that in a bit more with in line with his body. I have a darker colour than pale hibiscus called Mauve Shadow, and I was wanting to just see if I could bring in a sort of a shadow vibe. Right, back to my pale hibiscus. What do you think? I think we do the belly the same, pale hibiscus. Then I think again our mauve shadow can just come in and give us some of that dimensionality. Maybe on there as well. I think this should be a little bit darker just to sort of give that illusion that part of his body is under the water, which would suggest that maybe we should do the same thing for this. All right, we've focused on the whale. We've kicked off our colours. Let's look at this little guy. Let's start with the boat. I'm going to go with a rose beige. And then I'm going to bring in a reddish brass. And I'm hoping that this will give us a similar colour but a little bit darker. And bring in that fine nib just to give us a thin shadow underneath the rails of this boat. The gunnels is what they're called. All right, I think we need a different colour for... So we have rose beige. There's something a little bit yellower, maybe, for his harpoon. Let's go with a putty, so we can find a putty. All right, he's got his coat and his hat. And you know, I'm thinking I'm going to make them into a raincoat. And make them nice and bright orange. Do you remember I was forced to wear a raincoat at school when I was little. It was bright yellow. And I wasn't a big fan of the bright yellow raincoat. But it did keep you dry. This is a colour called Sunflower. And I'm going to bring in just something a little bit more orange in it, deep yellow. Alright, I've got a skin white and I'm just going to mix that with something that's a little bit redder. Skin white with a chocolate pink. Let's do that. This is our skin white. A little bit of chocolate pink. I think we need something even redder. What I've got here is a light prawn. And how's that for a colour name? Light prawn. I think he needs red cheeks and a red nose. Maybe sunburned ears. Alright, bringing in a cool grey 042 for our metal harpoon tip. And he is an old man in the sea, so maybe his beard is grey. I was going to go brown, but I think I'm going to use that same cool grey 042. Give him a grey beard. Right, I'm just getting a darker cool grey 081. Just going to add some texture into my beard with that grey. Alright, Horrison blue. Horrison blue is a nice light blue. I'm just going to make that water into a bit of Horrison blue. I'm going to mix that a bit with Horrison green. They sound like those two colours should mix, don't they? And I'm in two minds about whether I colour in around here. I'm going to start with, I might colour in the water. This is the Horrison green. Let's mix that in a bit with that Horrison blue. Just for fun, just to see what will happen. Let's do it the other way. There's the Horrison blue and here's the Horrison green. Very similar, but I think I prefer that. Alright, I'm going to create a sort of a amoebic shape around here and then blend the edges with my colourless blender. And the trick to this is just to do it real quick. So let's do it real quick. First of all, let's get a nice edge. For our Horrison blue. And bring in some Horrison green just to throw some a little bit of that sort of watery vibe. Right, colourless blender. Let's blend the edge of that and see what we can do. And I think we're just going to repeat that around here, which is a bigger selection, bigger section. So kicking off with our Horrison blue. Creating some sort of fun water shapes. Quickly adding some Horrison green in there, blending it up while it's all nice and wet. And then a colourless blender, make that edge nice and blurry. I wonder about putting some little bubbles in by using my colourless blender just to suck out some of the colour. Alright, let's talk about the sky. We've used our Horrison green and we've used our Horrison blue. Do I want to do a sky? If I throw the frost blue in, is it all just going to look blue? Could be fun. Let's play a little bit here in the corner. Well, that's our frost blue. I think that's just going to look the same, isn't it? Maybe we need to play with some of this, like a rainflower purple. So it's sort of a purpley blue. And we can convince ourselves that it's a stormy night or a stormy day. All right, bring that colourless blender back out and let's get those edges blurring. I think maybe we have a cloud coming in there. That might help us to... Sorry, that might help us to not use up all of this marker in the background sky. Hopefully that cloud will make sense. And one more time we'll bring out our colourless blender. And soften our edges. All right, I'm bringing the sky blue back in, which is this darker colour that we used here. I'm going to just add a few little spots. Alright, I've got a white ink pen. This is a jelly roll, but you can use whichever white ink pen you think is the best. And I'm going to just add in a little highlights because I think it's fun to do that. And it is an old man in the sea, so I'm going to add a little bit extra texture into his beard, some white flecks in the grey beard. And some extra white reflections, because those raincoats, from memory, were quite reflective. Which is probably a safety device when you're putting it on small children. Got some little bubbles under the ocean. Well, you know, I think I'm going to call that one finished. Another fun, simple and quick colouring from Asleep. It's always a joy to colour these simple pages. Just really saturate them with colour and really enjoy the process. So I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it colouring along with me. And I look forward to seeing you in another video. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye. See you later, guys. All the best.